Hello, everybody. I think that we are live for another episode of the Visto Show. It'll be an interesting one for a couple reasons. Number one, we have election week, not election weekend because the vote's not on the weekend, but I don't know. Election day's coming up in Canada. Not going to spend a ton of time talking about that, but I did want to touch on it. Some interesting updates to keep an eye on related to Express Entry that we're going to talk to, and we're going to spend some time with technology today. Two reasons. Number one is we just kind of launched the beta phase of our IRCC Online Form filling, which will be really cool. I'll give you a little behind the scenes look-see, shall we say, on how it looks and how it works and stuff like that. And then I'm going to spend a little bit of time going over, I posted on this a few days ago as well, going through Google Gemini, because they've had some big advancements lately. I mean, number one, as you know, I like to talk about and use AI. Heck, at Visto, we are an AI tech company. And number two, I like to also share the other stuff that I like to try, right? Other things I'm using, give you feedback, stuff like that. Obviously, if you have any thoughts, comments, etc., feel free to let me know in the chat. Hoa Tan says election day is on Monday, April 28th. Yes, exactly, Hoa. So it's not, at least where I am, early voting was last weekend. So we did go and my wife and I did our democratic duty of putting in our vote. But if you haven't voted yet, the day to vote is on Monday, April 28th. And we'll talk about that a little. Actually, I'll probably talk about it to start. So that's going to be, in terms of topics, oh, you can see them over there. Check them out there. But yeah, so there's been a lot of news, updates, etc., etc. I'm not going to keep this super in-depth about the election, but voting day is on Monday. Lot of back and forth, a lot of headlines, a lot of this, that, and the other. This show, the Visto show, is mostly focused on immigration, but I feel like immigration is actually a pretty decent proxy for what we've seen in Canada over the last 5 to 10 years, right? I mean, what we saw around 2015 and the few years after that were pretty good. Express Entry was launched, GTS was launched, but then starting around like 2018, 2019, things just got a little unhinged especially in the immigration world, right? Just letting in piles and piles of people, quality of vetting went down, document vetting went down, and there was a really huge floodgate that opened, I think partially due to the fact that we've always been immigrant friendly in Canada, and partially due to the fact that it was great headlines because the government could say, hey, we're letting in so many people, immigration is so great. And then what happened about 2-3 years ago is people started seeing what happens when you leave doors wide open, documents, people, all that kind of stuff unchecked. Is the pendulum swung back. Everybody realized what the heck was going on, especially in the international student space, the startup visa space, the LMIA space, all the fraud, all the manipulation, all the misuse that was happening. And of course, first came the uproar, then came the government action. Because if there's one thing I can probably say that our current government, the government we've had for the last 3 terms, has been doing, it's reacting. There has not been much proactive innovation, is maybe one way to say it, especially in immigration. A lot of reaction, swaying with the wind, following the sentiments of Canadians. When Canadians really wanted immigration, immigration was amazing. When Canadians got upset with immigration, immigration is terrible, and we should cut it, and we should cut it, heavily restrict it. So again, I don't want to make this too much of a political debate of an episode, but I've found that a lot of the same can be said for a lot of other areas of our country. The economy, crime, etc., etc. So I don't know. I'm not asking for people to do certain things. I'm just asking for people to educate themselves, make the right decision for themselves. I personally think more so than ever we need change, and the current party that has been leading now for over 3 terms hasn't really shown any potential to change or turn things around or make it much better. They might have a new candidate, but I don't know. I don't trust them, and the cabinet's the exact same. So just don't be surprised if we get the same party again, that we're going to continue to see the same results again. The results have been a rise in crime, a huge, I mean, our economy is pretty bad, right? We've all seen the graphs of GDP per capita, GDP growth. Our dollar's terrible, right? So, anyways, if nothing changes in terms of a new party, don't expect much to change in terms of economy, crime, dollar, etc., etc. So, anyways, that's my little spiel on that before we move on. Like I said, it's Monday is the day to vote. Feel free if you have any comments, questions, to reach out or put them in the comments. But without further ado, we'll get into some immigration and some tech as well. Like I said, always open to comments, always open to feedback if you are watching live on LinkedIn, which you definitely should be. If you're not, and you're joining on YouTube, well, no hard feelings, but by the way, you can always watch live on LinkedIn every second Friday. The link to my LinkedIn profile will be in the description. Okay, so let's jump into topic number one. Topic number one is one of my favorite topics, Express Entry. As always, I'm going to do a quick page refresh. And as we'll see here is, we did have one draw, or we so far have had one draw in April, right? So we had 4 draws in March, the last one being on the 21st. Usually these Express Entry draws come every 2 weeks. This draw took 3 weeks. And typically what we've been seeing is a PNP plus an additional draw. So like PNP and French, PNP and CEC, PNP and healthcare, right? Whatever it might be. In the middle of April, we only saw a PNP draw. They invited 800 people to apply, over 800, minimum score requirement of 764. I don't really know why. Part of me wonders, I mean, if you have any thoughts or ideas, please feel free to share. But if part of me thinks maybe just with the election coming up, everything political is kind of just like slowing down until the 28th. Part of me thinks that there was a delay because they're still updating the systems because of the recent change to the bonus points for the job offer. But I don't really know. If you have any thoughts, if you have any comments, feedback, please let me know. But it's tough out there for Express Entry these days. That is for certain. The other thing I'll quickly mention too is, where was it? Take a quick look if you haven't on the, where did it go? Oh, I don't remember where it went. On the industry-specific details, right? Because semi-recently, they updated some of the industry-specific draws. So they removed transpo, they included education. I think they made a few tweaks to the STEM. So if you're targeting one of those industry-specific draws, then just stay up to date there. All right, so that's it on the Express Entry side. We're gonna pivot over to technology today, and this is gonna be fun. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to show you, as many of you know, if you've been in or doing Canadian immigration, a lot of these forms now. So for example, here's IMM 0008 have been moved into online forms, right? Formerly, pretty much all the forms, especially when you could only apply on paper, were PDFs, right? PDF files that you had to fill out, download, upload, etc., etc. Now, a lot of these forms have been moving online. Now, many of you also know that at Visto, we have a platform that helps law firms prepare and submit applications really quickly. One of those features is auto-filling government PDFs, right? So if you're spending a lot of time filling out 1294, 1295, 5710, 5708, family information, use of rep, we do that in one click, right? We've been doing that for quite some time. But we also know that IRCC has been moving more of these forms online. So we built a Chrome extension. I'm going to show it to you here. This is currently in beta, so it's not available to all of our clients yet. It's mostly just available to me to test. But then we'll be going into a beta test phase, which basically means we're going to take a handful of our current law firms and let them test it first. Fix a few bugs, make sure it's working as intended, and then we'll launch it to everybody, hopefully within a couple of weeks. But I just want to quickly show you here how it works. Because you used to have to go in and go page by page and copy paste all this information in for your client. And now what you can do is you can log into your Visto account, right? So for example, we have our web app. You can create a new application. You can invite your client. You can gather all their information there, right? This is just what it looks like on the home screen. But you would basically create a new application, invite a client, gather all their information, review it, update it, whatever you got to do. And then when you're ready, all you have to do is log in or create your account on the IRCC website and watch how our Chrome extension works, right? So basically you click on the Chrome extension in the top right. A little bit, I think probably because I'm streaming right now, my bandwidth or whatever it's called isn't great. So I'm going to select my application and I'm going to select a family member of my client that I want to fill this form out for. And then you're going to see a little fetch. And then all you have to do is click this button, start, and it's going to take all the information. So I'm not clicking any buttons right now. Here's my hands. It's taking all the information that I've gathered and prepared with my client on Visto. I'm still holding my hands up here. And let me just rest them on my head. And it's filling out this online form, right? You can see it's going in along the left-hand side. You can see the little things are updating. And you can see on the right side in the Chrome extension, you're getting the check marks or the exclamation marks, right? So now it's done, right? That took what? 10 seconds? This would normally probably take 30 to 60 minutes. And this is just one form, right? There's multiple forms that I have to fill out for this application, and we do all the PR forms. But what would normally probably take 30 to 60 minutes to physically copy, paste, double check, make sure all the information's correct, make sure you don't get logged out of the platform, whatever. And now I have this little summary here. So I can see, oh my God, for each of these sections, this is how much it filled out. And then, for example, in this case, there was a little error. And I can just click on this drop down and I can see which questions were filled out successfully and which were not, right? So now I can go back and double check and make sure everything's correct and blah, blah, blah. And then I just go to the next form. Okay, 0008's done. Let's go to 5669. Let's go to 5406, blah, blah, blah. Click a button, right? So it's pretty crazy, in my opinion. Like I said, we're currently beta testing it right now. We're hoping this will be live for all of our clients or anybody using Visto in about 2 to 3 weeks. And I will definitely be keeping everybody updated, posting about it on LinkedIn, posting to our email list, right? So if you're not already on our email list, I highly recommend, where's the link here? Here, oh, I forgot to post my links. Usually I post all these links. So if you're watching on LinkedIn, you'll see these links in the comments. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, you'll see these links in the description in the order that I'm linking them in. Make sure you're on our Visto email list because I'll send updates. Amir says, wow, amazing. What about EE? Can we do the same? Good question, Amir. So right now we do have the first half of Express Entry, so meaning the profile creation. So we don't have because basically everything you see here, we had to go in and map out through the extension, right? So it's kind of a lot of work, right? So Alex, our CTO, has done a lot of work, spent a lot of time mapping out every single one of these questions to make sure that they align well. So to answer your question is, we hope to have the Express Entry profile creation part done on launch, but then the post ITA forms will probably come a few weeks after. So thanks very much for tuning in and for that question. Deepak says, that's super cool. Thanks, Deepak. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're pretty excited because I think it's only a matter of time before they retire all of the PDFs, right? Even work permits. We're seeing them do this already, right? They've moved there's now like an online study permit and visitor visa version. You can still use 5257 and 1294 to use the PDFs, but there's new portals with online forms, even for some temporary residence applications too. Hoa says, amazing tool. Thank you, John. My name's not John Hoa, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Glad you enjoy. So yeah, that's it. Not too much more. The nice thing is, it's pretty simple, right? I don't have to give you this like 10-minute overview. You pull up an online form and you click 3 buttons. And then the system will actually fill out the online forms for you. So if you or your firm are spending a lot of time doing that right now, definitely make sure that you're following me on LinkedIn. Ideally, you're on that Visto email list so you know as soon as it goes live. And or just start using Visto. We even have, if you go on our website, we have a free 30-day trial, right? So if you go to Visto.ai and just click sign up for free. And it will ask you for a credit card. We don't charge you $1. And you can sign up and you can use our entire platform for free for 30 days. Just set a reminder on the 29th day. If you don't want to keep using it, or if you want to wait for new features to come out, you can just log in. You handle all the billings, upgrade, downgrade, pauses. You can just log in, hit pause. Won't be charged $1. So anyways, that's there as well. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about today, and this is reaching far beyond just immigration, is Google Gemini. So as many of you know, number one, we're an AI company, right? So we like AI. We have custom immigration AI. We have a custom built Canadian immigration AI in Visto, right? So very familiar with that. But also, I like to use and play around with AI for other stuff, right? Especially because I don't really practice immigration law much anymore. So I still do a lot of other stuff: sales, marketing, admin, content creation, and I've been using Gemini a little bit more recently. Now, as you can see here, so the two things I wanted to talk about today was just how I've been using it and like what are my thoughts. And number two is I even today built a gem. So I'll talk about what a gem is. A gem is basically like a custom GPT. So I'll give you kind of like a high level overview of how I've been using it so far and how it kind of compares. Now, in full transparency, there's a lot of these AI tools now, right? So you can go to ChatGPT and basically do a lot of the same stuff, right? You can see like even the screens are kind of the same, right? Like all the interfaces are the same. You can go to Claude, right? You can go to whatever, Grok, right? They're all like relatively similar. You open it up and it's a chat box, right? Just as an example. The differences lie, I think, and if you're a heavy AI user, if you have questions or you have feedback, please feel free to comment and let me know. I think the two big things to keep in mind are, number one, how good is the output and like what is the strength of that LLM? And then the second piece being how integrated is this tool with your current workflow? So what do I mean by that? Number one, how good is the output? All these tools I just mentioned, Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, they're getting really, DeepSeek. There's a bunch now, right? They're all pretty good, right? You can go test them in depth if you want, but like they're all pretty damn good. What I've been kind of looking for is what are their strengths, right? Because each of them have different strengths and better use cases. So for example, I really think that ChatGPT and now Gemini as well, because I've only recently started using it a little bit more, I think ChatGPT is really good at research and analysis, right? So when I'm doing high level research analysis, like look, you can see here, like I use ChatGPT a fair amount, right? Really good at that stuff. When I want to write something, a blog, a guide, a this, a that, I find Claude to be much better. Why? Because I just find that the output that it writes is a little bit more natural. It just sounds a little bit more human, right? ChatGPT is great at research and analysis, but I find that the output in terms of text just comes across a little bit robotic. And so, over time, I've used ChatGPT a little bit more for research, and I've used Claude a little bit more for writing, right? So that's my first point, which is just like try the different tools and understand which ones are good at what, or which ones you like for certain things. You might actually love ChatGPT's writing, and you might prefer Claude for coding, or I don't know, whatever else you can do or look it up with, right? So that's kind of number one. If I can pull up, like, I'll start by saying this, right? Like my key AI criteria for now, right? Number one, how good is it at the core, let's say, function I'm looking to do, right? So like I said, ChatGPT, I really like it for research and analysis. Claude, really good at writing. Now, number two that I'm especially keeping in mind right now is how integrated is it with my current workflow? And I'll explain this in just a second. Hoa says, oh, my apologies. Thank you, Josh, for creating all these wonderful platforms and making our future work easier. Oh, my pleasure, Hoa. Yeah, no problem at all. Now, people usually get my last name wrong, Hoa. They don't normally get my first name wrong. But anyways, it's a Friday. I get it. No apologies needed. Okay, so number one, how good is it at the core function I'm looking to do? We just covered that. Number two, how integrated is it with my current workflow? So for example, why did I even start trying Gemini? Because I'm a G Suite user, right? I use Gmail, I use Google Docs, etc., etc. Now for my law firm, because I still do practice a little bit of law, right? I mostly focus on AI and the stuff, the immigration tech I was talking about, but I also still practice a little bit of law, and I use G Suite for that. And I saw that they had an upgrade to allow for e-signatures, right? Sounds like a tangent, but it's going to make sense in just a second. So I upgraded my Google Workspace so that I could have e-signatures right in Google, because that's where I prepare most of my documents. And then I saw that with that upgrade, I got a whole bunch of these like advanced Gemini features. So I was like, might as well try it, right? And I've tried it and I've used it a little bit over the last week, and I really like it, right? So for example, one thing that I've done is just similar that I would do with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, is just having high-level business conversations, right? So for example, the other thing I do is I have a Substack and a podcast, right? So I have a Substack. I usually send 2 or 3 of these a week. I talk about AI, I talk about business, I talk about Visto, I talk about, eating well and stuff like that. This is just like a personal blog, and a podcast, right? So I host the Solopreneur Grind podcast. I interview successful solopreneurs and stuff like that. And I hadn't really been, I've been continuing to create content. I really like creating content, but I haven't really thought strategically about it, or like had like these high level conversations. So I just started talking to Gemini about it. I need some help building my side hustle. If I provide more details, could you brainstorm and generate a strategy? Absolutely, blah, blah, blah. So I just started writing some information, right? I have a podcast. I've ran it for more than 7 years. I also have a growing Substack with over 800 subscribers. I'm thinking about growing it and blah, blah, blah. What do you recommend? And then I was using specifically the Brainstormer, right? Because you can just type whatever you want, or you can use some of these different functions that you can hopefully see along my camera's blocking some of them, but you understand here, right? There's a brainstormer, career guide, coding partner, copy creator, learning coach is what you can't see, and outreach specialist. So they have some of these pre-built gems. I was using the brainstormer for obvious reasons. And now it just started this conversation. And the first thing it actually did was ask me some follow-up questions, right? So I was like, hey, I can absolutely help you with that, but can you please tell me a little bit more? And it asked about my ideal client, my UVP, unique value prop, capacity, and I just gave it some answers. And then it started giving me some like really good feedback. And you can see here, I'm not going to go into, every single message or whatever. If you do have any questions or need any help on prompting, I really find that, especially right now, AI is really good, but it's really a garbage in, garbage out, right? So like one note to keep in mind is garbage in, garbage out. In other words, get good at prompting, right? So right now, especially the stage that AI is at, the better instructions and prompts you give, the better output you're going to get. If you give it vague instructions, you're going to get vague, or you're going to get output that isn't really what you're looking for because you didn't give it enough instruction of what you're looking for, right? Deepak says, me and Anton have an exam in a couple of hours, and his instructor's name is John, so you can have a guess from that. Got it. All right, Deepak, thank you for, like I said, no hard feelings either way, but that's funny and gives me a little more context. So anyways, for any of this AI stuff, just like really prioritize getting good or better at prompting, because the better you are at that, the better all the output's going to be. And you can see here, when you start getting into the nitty gritty and really conversing back and forth, I feel like that's another mistake a lot of people do, is they'll ask one question and not be happy with the output, and they'll close the window. Right? Totally wrong, in my opinion. Number one, the better your prompts are, the better the output. But number two is, it's really about continuing that conversation and refining and refocusing where you can get to the gold, right? So for example, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I know what I need to do. Now let's switch topics. I want to talk about growth. I want to keep growing my email list. I do this by posting on LinkedIn, Twitter, and sharing my podcasts into short 50-second clips to share as well. Any tips or ideas on how to grow my email list faster? And look at this. It goes into a pretty, I thought was like a pretty helpful, 7 different bullets on what I can do. And then which of these ideas sparks your interest the most, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, I'm not going to read through every message, right? You can see here, I kept going, I kept refining, I kept, this, that, and the other. I even had it create a resource for me because I got to talking back and forth about creating a new lead magnet. And I wanted to, and with the brainstormer's help, I came up with the idea of 3. So again, solopreneurship is kind of like my focus. 3 ways to overcome loneliness as a solopreneur. And we went back and forth, again, shared some ideas, fleshed it out. And then I think eventually here I said, because we had talked about what the 3 points were, can you please come up with a first draft? And it did. And look at this, like it just came up with a first draft that was actually really good. And then I obviously played around with it, touched it up, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, super helpful. You can see part of it's right here. I did do an edit. If you are interested in this, I think I changed the name, Solopreneur Survival Guide, 3 Ways to Banish the Solo Blues. I did change, I still feel like some of the AI output is like slightly a little too cringy for me. So I changed the title. I think I called it the Solopreneur Survival Guide, 3 Ways to Overcome Loneliness or something like that. I don't remember. It was something like that. Anyways, if you're curious to see it, I do have it saved. So feel free to shoot me a DM or make a comment and I can send it your way. But yeah, in the matter of minutes, like this looks like a long conversation if I'm scrolling, but this was probably a total of like 5 to 10 minutes of my time. Right. And not only was I getting all this incredible output and advice, but I was getting, here you can see I even asked it for more ideas for a title because I didn't like the other one. But the amount of output that you're getting per minute is just crazy. So anyways, hopefully that's helpful. I do want to talk about gems quickly as well. But yeah, if you have any other thoughts, feedback, questions, AI tools, AI recommendations, I'm all about it. Now let's take it one step further. And what I ended up doing was I really like this brainstormer gem, but I wanted to create one a little bit more custom, right? So a gem, and if you're familiar with ChatGPT, or pretty much all of them have it, I think Claude has it at this point, is, for example, this is the equivalent of a custom GPT, which basically means you can create your own version or your own chat that's trained on a specific set of information, right? So for example, this brainstormer is really good at brainstorming. In my case, I wanted something like a business coach that knows, excuse me, that knows all of the core details of my businesses, right? So I'm the co-founder of Visto. I'm a lawyer. I have a Substack. I have a podcast. When I ask this Gemini questions, I want it to have all of that information pre-built into its knowledge base, right? So I don't have to I don't have to type in, "Hi, I am Josh. I am a lawyer. I am this. I am that. Can you please answer this question?" Right? These are custom, in this case, gems, kind of like a custom GPT, where you can pre-fill it with information that you want, right? So for example, I created a business coach gem. It has a lot of the basics of who I am, what are my businesses, what are my key goals, and stuff like that. So for example, I created this, I think yesterday, and I'll show you the first chat that I had. Should I order new business cards? I don't go out much maybe this is a little too much info here. I don't go out much anymore or attend many events in person, but they might be useful. Is it worth the time and the cost? Again, maybe a stupid question, but just to give you some perspective on some of the basic stuff I'm even using this for. And because it knows, given your situation as a lawyer in Vaughan, Ontario with a strong social media presence and a focus on growing your family law practice, let's weigh the value of new business cards, right? And it just starts evaluating the decision, giving me a recommendation. And then one of the recommendations, which I thought was interesting, was creating a digital business card, right? Because who the heck needs paper, and who leaves the house anymore? You know what I mean? At least if you're an introvert like me. So then I said, oh, what are some good options for creating a digital business card? I hadn't even thought of that. And it's such a good idea. And it just gave me more information. So again, I didn't have to type out, because as I said earlier, right, garbage in, garbage out, which means the more information and context you can give to AI, the better. But if you can pre-build all of that information and context in once and not have to do it over and over again, it's even more powerful and it saves you more time. I'll show you really quickly how it works. So Gem Manager, and like this is how easy it is. I think this is very similar to custom GPTs, but again, just food for thought. You click on New Gem, you give it a name, right? So maybe I want to do like LinkedIn poster, right? You give it instructions. You are my LinkedIn expert. I will give you prompts and you will draft LinkedIn posts for me. I prefer to use a casual yet, somewhat professional tone. I'm just giving you an example here. That's like casual yet professional those are kind of like oxymorons, no? So this is a bad example, but you understand what I'm saying here. And keep my posts between 300 to 600 words. Always end my posts with a call to action, please. So as you can see, pretty straightforward. Now the other cool thing you can do here, and again, you can do this with custom GPTs and probably the competition as well, is you can add files, right? So you can click add, you can add images, you can add files. If you sync it up with your workspace, you can sync it to specific files from your Google Drive as well. I haven't done that yet because, like I said, I use this for my law firm and I don't really want to give AI access to client information and documents, right? So be careful with that stuff. Be smart about that stuff. But for example, what I would do here is I would create a file that maybe has my last 10, 20, 50 LinkedIn posts and just create like a Google Doc or a Word doc with all those. And I would upload them as a file here. And then what I would say is I would say something like, please use similar language, grammar, why can't I type A's today? Grammar and tone as the examples I've uploaded in the knowledge file, right? Something like that. So again, now you don't have to type this every time, and it's pre-trained on the language that you know and like, right? So I think stuff like that is super powerful, especially for content creation, marketing, social media, all that kind of stuff, right? I'll even admit, like, I don't use this too much yet for legal work because some of it can be a little bit difficult to kind of get right, and then there's still the question of confidentiality, privacy, and stuff like that, right? So I would never put clients' information, documents through AI. But you can use it for marketing. You can use it for content creation. You can use it for social media. You can use it for drafting basic documents, right? And just being smart about confidentiality, right? So for example, maybe I want to make a gem that's called cover letter drafter, right? And I would just say something like, you are my expert at drafting legal cover letters for my clients. I have uploaded a template of my usual cover letters in the knowledge base. Please always start with that draft. Please always include a placeholder for my client name, right? I don't know, right? Stuff like that, right? Or the other thing that you could maybe do is please always So you could create a cool system here to help you get around personalization and confidentiality, right? Please always include today's date at the top. Please always set the client name as Anne, right? Just an example, right? So this will always keep it anonymous. And now you know anytime it creates a new draft, you can just Control F, right? Control F brings up search, and you can type in Anne, and then you can replace the text, right? So for example, show you a quick example here. Here's just a blank Google Doc, right? So let's say it generated a document, right? Blah 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 and blah 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 and blah 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 and, right? So it spits out this document. I can just Control F and then in Google, right? You can do this in Word, you can do this wherever you want. Replace it with Dan, right? Because my client's name is actually Dan. And I just click replace all. There. Now I have my document ready. And I've protected my client Dan's information from the AI, right? So anyways, just food for thought and strategies on how you can kind of like get around that confidentiality, privacy piece and stuff like that. So anyways, that's it for me today, folks. Was that helpful? Before I kind of cut out here, well, first of all, let me I'll highlight again Josh's pretty key takeaways regarding AI, right? So number one, how good is it at the core function I'm looking to do, right? So play around with these different tools. There's Gemini, there's ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's DeepSeek, there's probably a million more by now, right? There's Grok, there's whatever. So try a few out, see what they're like, use them. What I like to do is use multiple tools to do the same thing and compare the output, right? So for example, like take this question or take a question that you have about something and copy and paste it into 3 different models. Copy it into Gemini, copy it into Claude, copy it into ChatGPT, compare the outputs. Oi, Jesus. Scared the crap. I don't know if you heard that. Something dropped upstairs. And compare and just pick the one that you like the most. The other thing to keep in mind, how integrated is it with your current workflow, right? Because for example, ChatGPT, which was invested into by Microsoft, so Microsoft's Copilot is built on ChatGPT. So if you're a Microsoft user, you might want to lean more on Copilot and or ChatGPT because they're a little bit more integrated. If you're a G Suite or whatever it's called, Google Workspace user, you might want to use Gemini because it's more integrated with your stuff. And or in my case, I get all of these, just because I have my G Suite subscription that I'm paying for already, I get all these bonus features and Gem this and Manager that. So I'm probably gonna lean on Gemini a little bit more in the near future because I'm paying for it anyways, right? So anyways, food for thought. And then the last note, garbage in, garbage out, get good at prompting. If you're not already good at prompting, then get good at it. Why? Because number one, your AI output is going to be so much better right away. And B, or two, I don't remember if I said A or one, and two, as the AI gets better and better tools come out, it's still going to rely on good prompting. So having good prompting it's like a compounding skill at this point, right? Because the AI is only going to get better if your prompting's already better or getting better. You're going to be able to make the most of all of the AI now and in the future as well. So anyways, that is it for me, folks. Hopefully you found that helpful. If you have any feedback, any thoughts, any questions, please feel free to let me know, either LinkedIn in the comments, YouTube in the comments as well. The second half of this show is a little bit different, right? Normally I'm like exclusively talking about Canadian immigration and news and politics, but I've started to spend a little bit more time on the Visto show, getting a little bit more in tuned with the AI tools and use cases and little guides and just like showing you how I'm using it. So if you find it useful, definitely let me know. Deepak says, definitely it is super helpful. As a future RCIC, I feel this is a wonderful tool and knowledge of these tools is absolutely effective and efficient. Awesome, Deepak. Really glad that you find it useful, and appreciate the comment. Hoas is very helpful, Josh. Have a great Friday and weekend. Thanks, Hoas. Same to you. Just for those of you who don't know, I go live for the Visto show every second Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you're following me on LinkedIn if you're not already to see future shows. If you're watching this on YouTube, a like, a subscription, a comment, it always helps. And then also you'll know when the next episode goes live as well. So make sure to follow us there. Thanks everybody very much for tuning in. Again, whether you're watching on YouTube or on LinkedIn, have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend ahead. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.